We now come round to chapter 11 of the book, and we come to John the Evangelist, or the Gospel of John. There is some dispute as to who wrote this wonderful text, but we'll leave that to one side. It's all dealt with in the book. The issue is this, is that John is a bit different. He's got a different sort of feel to the synoptic Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Synoptic just means one view from the same perspective. John's Gospel is it feels far more deliberately structured, and its key theme is witness. Key theme is witness. If you think the Gospels are biased, they are. John makes it clear he's only writing so that you might become a witness. But he writes in this wonderfully poetic way. He's got his testimony about Jesus arranged around 7 signs. He only picks 7. The perfect number to reveal the power of God working in Jesus and how Jesus is the revelation of God's love to humanity. And he's got 7 mysterious I am sayings, whereby in his gospel he therefore frames Jesus on the same level as God's self. When Moses was confronted in the burning bush with the task of liberating the people from Israel, he legitimately and reasonably said, "Who shall I say is sending me?" He probably wanted the voice to say, "I am the God who squashes pharaohs or liberates people," but what he got was the name, I am. Tell the people I am sent you. This wonderfully elusive revelation of God's sacred name. That God just is. God just is. God's not defined by anything else, like thunder, this, that, the other, water, like the great gods of the Greek and Roman pantheons. God just is. If God just is, God is the God of everything that is us. That would be everything. So God is, and when Jesus says, I am the Good Shepherd, I am the bread of life, I am, it even knocks people over, as you'll find in John 18, when they come to arrest the revealed Son of God. And you're meant to say, how crazy that they bring lanterns to the one who is the light of the world. And his gospel's arranged around this idea that step by step, you the reader, or you the hearer, I should say, of this gospel, because don't forget, there were oral traditions before they were written down. You are being asked to make a judgment on who this guy is. Where does that drama come to a centre point? It comes when Pilate asked Jesus, what is truth? And it's when you're screaming, if you like, from the side saying, you're looking at it. This idea that the revelation of Jesus is the revelation of the truth of God. John presents Jesus, if you like, as the key to understanding what it is to be human. If Genesis begins with the idea of a clodman, the outrageous thesis of John's Gospel, which begins with the words, in the beginning, you're meant to think of Genesis, is that in Genesis 1:14 when he says, Kai logos sarx ageneto, kai eskenos in enmin, and the word flesh became, it's almost the idea that we've got now a clod God. That God has tried to reveal the way to live through covenant, and now he's got to do it by example. A lived human life. That's how to understand the revelation of God. And that's what John, in his gospel, deliberately asks the reader or the hearer to come to a mind upon. And you maybe remember after the resurrection there's this famous moment where Thomas has missed an apparition, and he's then confronted with the risen Jesus. And Jesus says to Thomas, you believe because you've seen. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe. And that's the tone, the line going through this gospel. Will you be a witness to this Jesus, who is a witness of God, of how to live, God living as a human being? That's the challenge of John's Gospel, and that's the deep theology that runs through it. first words to its last.